Hi guys, as usually it's me, just a voiceover, and you're watching Review Machines. There is a common knowledge: when you're choosing something, never choose the cheapest thing, it never works. But today we will make an experiment. Now we will find the cheapest electric bike on AliExpress, buy it, and see what we will get for this money. And we have some interesting variants here, but the cheapest this one. What we have here: electric bike, 350 watts motor, 10.8 ampere hours with rear and front suspension. Well, sounds interesting, and the feedbacks are quite decent. Well, I take the decision. We are buying it. Wow, that's what I call a fast delivery. Here it is, ready to be reviewed. In fact, the delivery took about 3 weeks. When we bought it, we paid about $500, but when you watch this video, the price may differ. Well, what do we have for this money? DSY X6 Bike Super Sport Fashion Sports Series Jaguar. What a modest name for the bike, guys. I would call it Super Power Boosted Turbo Edition Stage 2 Final Heavy Duty Supercharged. Let's have a closer look. You know, first impressions are quite decent. Paint and build quality seem fairly good. There is front and rear suspension system. The frame is foldable. The battery is mounted on the top of the frame. It can be dismantled for charging. The battery itself is lithium, 10.8 ampere hours. There are 26-inch wheels. Rear electric motor, 350 watts. The changing speed gears and brakes are Shimano, and that's quite surprisingly, taking into account the price of the bike. There are many devices on the handlebar. At the right we see, so to speak, an ignition switch, the throttle handle, and the display with light and info about battery, speed, distance and so on. At the left there are lights and signal buttons, and there are standard brakes and gear shift handles. Well, I think it's enough of theory, let's see how it goes. Sometimes to pedal it's quite tedious thing, and that is most important advantage of any electric bike. Frankly speaking, I doubt that the bike would have enough power for me, and my weight 90 kilos. But to my surprise, it drives me without any problem. Certainly you shouldn't expect some insane taking off or so on, but if the road is plain, it's quite enough power. Besides, I liked its idle run. And to my mind, it's not much harder to pedal on this electric bike than on any other regular bike. So even without a motor you can ride on this bike without any difficulties. But of course it weighs more, about 30 kilos. It's quite heavy if compared with a regular bike. What I don't like, that's awful noise when I use brakes. You know, the bike looks rather decent, but when you use the brakes, this squeak shows everyone that your bike is cheap. The best way to save the battery is riding with the speed about 20 km per hour. The bike can go much faster, of course, but we will check the maximum speed a bit later. Besides, there is an electric assist. It helps you greatly if you pedal, and that's right way to climb hills, cause it's easy for you and it saves the battery. The frame is foldable, as I've said, and it may be considered as a serious advantage. The lock itself seems quite durable and simple. It's a very quick process to fold the bike, and then it takes twice less space, and you don't need to dismantle the wheels or handlebar. The pedals are also foldable. In this way it takes even less space, and after all you can put a pair of such bikes in a trunk of any crossover, and that is a great feature. And it's very easy to unfold the bike. Few moments and it's ready to go. There are front and rear suspension, but certainly it's cheap, so do not expect a luxurious performance. It works anyway, so I think it's better to have a cheap suspension than do completely without it. But let's get back to the practice. Now we see the bike taking off without pedals, only with electric drive. Well, there is no any burnout, of course, but it accelerates quite rapidly. But again, if you want to save the battery, help with pedals when start riding. Let's check the maximum speed with only an electric drive. The road is flat, and maximum speed is 32-34 km per hour. Want faster? Use the pedals. Now we are climbing the hill. It's hard to see it, but there is a hill. First I tried to climb on it just with pedals. Well, it's quite a tough thing, I should say. Now the same hill and only the electric drive. As you can see, it goes. Not very fast, but goes. But if you are using pedals together with the electric assistance, it goes on hill much faster, and it doesn't take much efforts. You see me climbing the hill way faster than some other bikes without electric drive. Now let's look for some drawbacks. Loading seams could have been better. They may be durable enough, but they look slightly slovenly. The menu documents don't help to adjust the settings of the computer. There are many settings, but how they work absolutely not clear. There are already some faults on the seat for even this short time of use the bike. Wiring is also looks slovenly. I think it would be better to make over it properly. By the way, many presents came complete with the bike. Rear light, anti-theft cable, a small pump, fenders and flashlight. I would prefer not to take all this stuff, but to get an additional discount. But maybe there are people who appreciate no discounts, but presents. It's matter of taste. Guys, if you saw some other our videos on this channel, you might probably know that we like off-roading. So let's leave the good road. Well, of course, this time we will not do any mud racing, but try the bike on a slightly rough terrain. And again, I have to admit that this cheap bike goes quite well on this road. So why do we pay more for expensive bikes, if there is no difference? The reason maybe is in reliability. It will be interesting to see this bike after a season or two of use. According to the official specs, the range is 40 km with one charge. Today we've driven about 20 km, but the battery was still alive. So I think the real range is about 30 km. Now let's see how the suspension works. We see the front suspension absorbs the roughness, but the rear one works slightly worse. Again, I would say that it's definitely not adjustable Fox Podium shocks, but it's better with cheap suspension than without it, especially on a rough terrain. Probably it's not reliable, but only time can show us if it is so. While this YX6 bike Super Sport Fashion Sport Series Jaguar, what's our conclusion? At least if you buy this bike, you may tell your friends that you bought X6 or Jaguar, and that would be truth. Frankly speaking, when we bought the bike, we were going to make a funny video to mock at this Chinese cheap stuff. But the more I rode it, the less I wanted to mock at it. It's a cheap but decent electric bike, powerful enough to drive my 90 kilos, with range about 30 kilometers, good idle run and with suspension. The only question is not clear, what about reliability? Will it be so good after a season or two? So guys, if you own such electric bikes, please post comments with your feedback, if it is a really decent bike or not. Thanks for watching guys, please consider subscribing the channel if you like this video. Stay with us, it will be many more interesting materials here. Goodbye.